Power of community in Web3 and bringing multiple folks into the fold. It's been a pleasure to meet some of you all through coming here to the event where we're going to talk about the future of Web3 and how it intersects with apparel and fashion, your clothes, and your fashion. So let's get started. I don't know if your microphone is working directly, but... Yeah, wonderful. We'll pretend it works. Emily, you're the founder and CEO of MetaVernet. I want to start with you, since you were working in the fashion industry before blockchain, before it was MetaVernet, right? We're here a stone's throw away from Canal Street, where all of our favorite counterfeit goods are being sold.
So I would like to know, why is blockchain important for fashion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, yeah, as mentioned, I've been in fashion for over 20 years, always on the design and creative side, and made a switch into technology, just realizing a lot of the problems in the industry, and one of them is authenticity, right? As well as sustainability, right? So when you talk about Canal Street and knockoffs, all those things are very easily solvable with blockchain technology, replacing that ugly card that comes in your handbag when you purchase it with a simple address. And you know, that's just one of the ways that we can attack all the problems in the fashion industry. There's so many problems in the fashion industry happening right now. But yes, authenticity is certainly one of them.
What are the other problems?
So, our biggest problem is, how do brands reach new consumers? So that's really what we're focusing on. Traditionally it was through retail channels like Saks and Neiman's and wholesale outlets. That's not working. COVID changed the retail climate, turned everything to direct to consumer. Brands went direct to consumer, and then you had the oversaturation in the market of Google and Facebook and paid advertising, where brands certainly don't have the capital to compete. And so what we're doing is we're really taking a decentralized approach to that and saying, we're going to disrupt the Google and the Facebook, and we're going to bring back the power for the individual designers to engage and interact with their community on a one-to-one level, really creating more of an authentic community of clients that are already interested in their brands. So our platform is an all-in-one platform merging the digital and the physical worlds through having NFCs in the garments that communicate back client experiences that are actually tied to the brand.
Thanks, Emily. Sylvia, I want to hear more of your backstory, actually, because we were on a panel during NFT NYC, and you were sharing more about your 3D meta dress, which I want the audience to learn about. What moved you from the pre-NFT world, the pre-metaverse world, into that digital space?
Okay, good. So I was a fashion designer as well. I had a brand. I had like all the traditional brand stuff. And then I guess about 15 years ago by now, I was like, okay, this is just fucked up. Everything is wrong with fashion. Everything is wrong with it. From the sustainability to the whole thing of how the fashion industry works. So it was around then that I sort of pulled back and started to look at what could be really new, and that was all driven by technology. And so I've kind of done everything between fashion and tech since then. That's a picture of me. I'm wearing Google Glass, which kind of dates it from a really long time ago. I mean, a lot of this technology is really old by now. And we still haven't solved any of fashion's problems. So I thought, I think I've been on the more, my stuff is more about how are clothes made, what does that look like, what does the fashion industry look at like from the back end, and I think Web3 offers this opportunity for something that's really new to reorganize it. Both, you're talking about blockchain, and blockchain on the supply chain end of apparel manufacturing is huge and can hugely change things, as well as on the front. And then I think Web3 is like, fashion used to be what fashion designers dictated, and now it's find your tribe. It's about find your creativity and connect with the community, and Web3 offers that.
So I'd like to zoom out from there, especially since you mentioned Google Glass. And I always wanted to try the Google Glasses. I remember people were getting banned from wearing those at poker tables and blackjack tables in Las Vegas. They were worried about what technology could be enabled by seeing through this little lens, right? Brian, you founded New York Culture Club. You're also the founder and CEO of Parallel Worlds, which is working on digital twinning of not just apparel, but cities. You are building Meta Manhattan. Why is that important, and how is that going to be viewed through an augmented reality lens?
Yeah, that's a really great question. It's important because all of this is about kind of where we are in space and time. And that can be distorted when we talk about immersive realms. So while we're sitting around here waiting for teleportation to arrive, it's already here. So you could have a digital twin of yourself in augmented reality, sitting and talking with somebody and feeding a transcript to you while you're running another meeting halfway across the world, right? So we're on this brink of this entire distortion in space and time, and a lot of what we're talking about is creating smart products or digital counterparts to physical items, whether that be a functional twin or something that's just more aesthetic in nature, like a digital twin of a shirt that's spinning around in space. But all of this from an understanding where we are in space and time, and people will come to see with edge computing, once that really takes hold, that we are the most powerful nodes in the solar system. We always have been. But once we start to coordinate this data better, we can start to solve problems of traffic and transportation, urban management, public health and safety. The largest decision system sciences, where we die by 1,000 cuts of inefficiency every day, we can start to get a handle on those things by coordinating those and even doing it such that people don't know that they're even participating. Right? So that's what Parallel World seeks to do, is meet people halfway. If they're going to have their face down on their phone in immersive social media realms in the future, then we want to meet them right there. And we want to creatively start to shape our behavior to celebrate us and not just money.
So you're speaking of logistics, reality of logistics.
Correct. Yeah. Even
Real
human
Real
intelligence. Yeah.
In real time.
Correct. And that's all connected with signal intelligence, like the microchip on my fingernail.
Interesting.
Are you going to fix the MCA? Are you going to digital twin?
Actually, that's something that we've already thought about. So imagine a world where, a switch breaks on the 456, and all of a sudden you go to walk in the 456 and it alerts you that you get double the points to ride the L train between 4 and 6 p.m. today. Right? So you turn around and you walk to the L train, and what you don't know is the MTA just redirected 500,000 people between 2 and 6 away from the 4-5 switch break.
What about the light bulb to be screwed in on the MTA? It takes 4 guys to do it.
Well, yeah, that's training, right? So training in many of these realms.
It's also a union.
Yeah, well,
Logistics.
yeah.
I'm curious.
Gregory, we'll corner Ryan after the panel and give him all the grilling questions.
Thank you, sir.
But I'm gonna grill him while I'm in the seat. That stuff is hugely important. I can see the value in that for society. the hell are you doing making t-shirts? What does that mean?
Art is a vessel, right? So a t-shirt is just a vessel to celebrate. A lot of this, see, people speak of decentralization as if decentralization is a technology. Decentralization is a belief system that lives within your heart. It doesn't matter what tool you're swinging around. If you don't believe in equality and other people being able to celebrate their creative spirit, then it doesn't matter what tool you're using. You're not decentralized.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to ask a question. Sorry. What is everything chasing? I love everything you just said. Like, what are we chasing? Are we chasing money? Are we chasing art? What are we chasing? Saving the earth?
Actually, I want to kick that to Emily, since I know, coming from the traditional fashion world, which I don't. I come from tech, creative technology. I wasn't into fashion. I didn't get it at all, style, until I moved to New York 8 years ago yesterday, and I was immersed in street art, street culture, fashion, and for me it started to click. Why does this matter to you? You've been doing this for your whole career. What moves you to care?
Well, it's very deep to my heart, but after, being the creative director of a fashion brand for 10 years, I went out and launched my own luxury fashion brand, and it was something that I believed in and worked on my entire career, and it did not succeed. It failed. And, I can say that now with a smile on my face, because it really helped me turn around and look at, all of the problems that are happening out there. I didn't really look towards technology to address those. So, to me it is very personal. I wanted to, at first, I really wanted to attack the design process because of the waste and the sustainability and all that. But realized in talking to other brands and designers out there and other creatives and artists and whatever, and the common thread was, how do we get our message out there? How do we build our community? And how do we, engage with them in a way that is exciting for them to learn about? And so that's really what I wanted to focus my career on now.
Here.
So to me, fashion is largely about self-expression. I think the panelists would agree. I also feel like within the world of crypto, where I come from, NFTs, that there's some aesthetic. Sylvia, I'd love to hear and have you share more about the 3D meta dress, because it's both classical and modern. And what inspired your aesthetic choices? Do you think there's an aesthetic of the metaverse?
Absolutely.
I gotta think on aesthetic of the metaverse. I think there are multiple aesthetics of the metaverse. I don't think it's like one look. I think it's a lot about the freedom to look however you want. But besides that, 3D meta dress is a dress that I created with, in partnership with another woman, which is a 3D printed dress, which the textile of it is the names of women in Web3. Each file on it, it's 300 individual panels. Each one was 3D printed out of a recycled material. Each one has a different name. And part of the aesthetic was the limitations of what we could do, given the names, how it had to fit, and that it's a digital dress as a digital clothing design. It's a Decentraland wearable. It is a physical dress. Each individual name is minted as an NFT or will be. It's still in process of that. And each one is an individual 3D file so that it can generate jewelry and accessories and other clothing. And we really wanted it to be about looking at all these different, kind of taking one dress and how could we spin it out into this whole story and into what could clothing be? How could you pull meaning out of it? So it's ongoing. There's at least one woman in the room who's on the dress, and there's probably more than that.
Scarlett's on the dress?
Yeah.
Scarlett. What?
Yeah.
I love it.
So we talked about Google Glass earlier. This is just a prop now, by the way. Also announced, I think this is fun. Earlier this summer was the Apple Vision Pro, which is Google Glass on Apple roids. Fully worn over your head. You got a battery pack on the side. They probably don't want to tell you about it because it's a little less the Apple aesthetic to have that wire come down into your pocket. The trend to be an Android user here. What's it going to look like when the Steve Jobs of the future walks down the sidewalk, just wearing black mock neck, blue jeans, but I have on my Apple Vision Pro and he's wearing metaverse fashion. What's that person going to look like?
You're asking me? I don't know.
Steve Jobs might as well look like a metaverse model.
However that person wants to look, I suppose. If we've done our job, then we haven't tried to tell them what the song is. We're inviting them up on stage to play the instrument with us. So I think most brands are going to get this wrong in the next decade. And Meta has already lost $30 billion doing this, but they're going to try to be everything to everyone when all they need to do is curate an ecosystem where people can be authentically themselves. So they just need to get out of their own way. We don't need to play the music at the people. Again, we invite them up onto stage. The instruments have never been so functional, beautiful, and with AI now, there's just no competition.
Emily, you're the fashion designer. What are you designing for metaverse? What's going to be different than these resplendent folks here in physical matter?
Yeah, I'm kind of in there like with this whole road to mass adoption in the fashion industry. Metaverse has been one of the key words that everyone keeps talking about, but they don't actually want to participate in any real way that is going to be monetizable, right? So like, I try to shift the conversation away from metaverse per se, and just really focus on how we can elevate their community and their products to include Web3 designs and experiences and utilize that component to it. Metaverse and gaming will come into it, but it's just, it is taking time. It's taking time for the brands to really get on board and figure out what they're going to do with it.
So the onboarding problem, I think anybody here who's in Web3 is wanting to solve that problem. Web3 is better the larger the network is. Our story, our founding story, Satoshi's Closet, was using apparel as a platform to communicate to people crypto and NFTs when we started this 4 years ago. Today we have Huddle CEO sitting in the front row with glowing crypto kicks. This is Nike bought a startup Artifact some years ago. Certainly those are going to catch attention online at the club. Ira, your partner Zafe, is working on the Zafe 4s, these light-up shoes. What role can fashion play, apparel play, in solving that mass onboarding problem? I'll ask any of the three of you.
Okay, so that is definitely my wheelhouse. So that is my mission, is to make this as easy and frictionless as possible. So, you know, much like both of our platforms, using NFC chips that you literally just walk next to or hold your phone up to, that immediately take the consumer to the brand's experiences. They go straight from you being close to the garment to immediately delivering you a reward, loyalty point experience, geofenced activity, with one click of a button, or just literally being in the vicinity of where that's happening. So I think, there, with the whole crypto conversation and metaverse, it got very, intimidating for the fashion industry and the users to get on board with these platforms. So for me, if you have a Web3 company, make it as simple to use and digestible for people to use your platform, and that to me is the key. There needs to be literally one click or one link between the product or Web 2 and Web 3.
So if you look at, go ahead.
I think a couple of things on that. One is the fashion, there are different types of fashion. There's different within the fashion industry. Streetwear is generally not considered fashion industry still for fashion people, which is like crazy. Like the early adopters are mostly coming out of streetwear though. The traditional fashion industry is like very clunky and slow. And it's probably not worth anybody's trying to get those people to come in first.
That's why we're selling T-shirts around the corner.
And then I think it's also, we're in a really exciting time of what can clothing do? And think about, as customers, as consumers, what do you want your clothes to do? What do you want them to look like, but also what do they do? And that's what Web3 can do.
Brian, you thought about this a lot, right? So that's where the New York Culture Club comes into the picture, and you've talked about things like wear to earn. What is the point of a digitally connected wearable, aside from provenance and authenticity, which are important, but why else does that matter? What value can that create?
Incentives are a great way to buy people's patience to learn that new technology. That's the way I see it. I see it as kind of like we're sitting down at a piano and we're hitting a few keys, and people have never been, as impatient as ever, and they hit one or two keys and they get frustrated with themselves and they try to walk away. So we've got to find a way to make things either so functionally or aesthetically beautiful, or both, that people just can't look away. It's what happened with the iPhone. You mentioned Steve Jobs, right? The largest company in the world was Research in Motion, or BlackBerry, right? And it was dethroned because something was just more beautiful, right? The BlackBerry was actually probably more functionally, adept at conducting business at the time, but people abandoned it. And that's why I think fashion, apparel, art in general, it has the ability to disrupt and cause shifts in consciousness. And that's really what we need right now, is we need to show people what is possible, and then we need to have the patience to understand that we're in a moment where we need to reinforce and reinforce and reinforce. And eventually you'll get people like Apple who come out with the Vision Pro, and maybe everyone can't buy it right off the bat, but it will help tip that consciousness, and it will help show people what is possible and how beautiful this can be. And then eventually that will drive behavior that scales those markets down, that hardware will become accessible to people, and then we will forget that we used to hold these things in our hand eventually. Right?
So the question I want to ask you started to speak to it there at the end, is how does this better the whole world? To talk about Apple Vision Pro, that's the highest end consumer that exists. Most of us sitting in this room are very privileged to be in this room, to enjoy this space, to have our light up shoes, and have our fun party. What does this matter to people everywhere in the world who don't have the privilege to be in this seat?
I think you should answer this, but I'm going to take a stab at it. So I think, aside from just pioneering fashion, right? There's a lot of, social impact that is a huge player here, right? So you can use apparel and use the fashion as, the trigger, but it can also make a difference in the world by having that trigger link back to foundations and causes that are very authentic to the person scanning it, right? So it's no longer about the brands picking their, trendy cause of the season or whatever have you. This is now more about, use the fashion as a gateway to all of these other initiatives, right? And I think, for me, social impact is a huge part of this, right? So just one more layer onto sustainability, traceability in the supply chain, like we mentioned earlier, and just really creating a brand that is so much more than just stylish clothes. Maybe you should talk about that.
Well, yeah, I think this really comes down to authenticity, right? And we're, I think, in a moment where the largest brands and retailers in the world are about to be judged, and in a way that they haven't been judged before. And we have options now. We have the ability to hyper-personalize, right? So now we have more of the power, and I think we need to give that power and control back to the people and show them that they have it. This is really where I think we're at the brink of prosumerism. So producer-consumer, right? We've been conned into thinking we're only consumers. We've actually been producing all of the stuff on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of these platforms. We uploaded the world to the internet in plain HTML text over 30 years ago, and we didn't add access controls, encryption, and ownership procedure. And we've existed in a state of digital chaos since. And it has caused national security problems in this country. People spread disinformation and misinformation willfully, and they got people killed. And we have to call this what it is, and that's actually one of the most important things. Is we have to know that we have a problem, and we have to call it a problem, and we have to focus on what we can do to turn this all around. But we don't need any more greenwashing from the brands. We don't need any marketing fodder and propaganda and all these things about how they're going to give $1 halfway across the world, and then we find out that actually half of it's gone to executives eating filet mignon in Ohio, right? So we have to institute new tools to keep more transparency on these things, but then we can make these things more transparent and empower the brand ambassadors, the people who have always should have owned the brand, right? Who wear this brand insignia like a military insignia. We should own the brand this time around, and if they could give up a little control, a little bit of ownership to us, they would see that the services that surround a physical product will derive far more value than the actual sale of that physical product itself in the future. This is really when we talk about knowledge and service-based economies. So even emerging market economies are 55% services, right? So the people who make all this stuff that we throw out 10 minutes later, all those countries are even 55% services on GDP. So we don't need to make things things anymore. Machines make things. We need to share our culture with each other, which is why New York Culture Club's called New York Culture Club. Is culture is the new currency.
Yeah.
On the physical production side, supply chain, Sylvia, I'd like to hear from you and what some of your motivations are, what you're seeing in industry. It takes a lot of energy to produce whole cloth, new material. What are you doing? What do you see happening in the space to do differently? I see my friend Chris Mena in the back over there. He had a show a few days ago, killed it. It's called From the Streets. All reclaimed materials from all over New York City, woven, stitched into amazing fashion. I love the soubrette stuff in particular. Is there any way that new production of clothes can be sustainable, even if it's different than the old modes, or should we just really be leaning into vintage, upcycling, taking what we have now and making it better with the existing physical matter that we're already wearing?
It's a lot of question. So I believe, I'm not sure the exact date, but at some point about now, the percentage of resale clothes is going to exceed the number of fast fashion clothes. So it is getting better. It is really rapidly growing of resale as a business. I think on new clothes, two things. One is the transparency, and that is like super important. And that's something where, giving people information and knowing where did your clothes come from, who made them, and what was that, and being able to prove it on blockchain. The biggest thing supply chain wise is that the jobs are going away. That the reality is that there are millions of mostly women in third world countries who have horrible jobs making fast fashion, and they're being replaced by robots. So now they have no jobs. And that's a really messed up situation. Like, we owe those people something. The robots are, they're going to take over on all those jobs. Good, bad. There is also a lot of innovation on stuff like 3D printing and other ways to recycle materials and use technology to make things that are new. I don't think we're going to get rid of new. I think it's just going to change. So I don't have a good answer on any of it, but I think it's, I think the transparency as being here in America of consumers, it's incredibly important to just know where your clothes came from, to ask questions, to know what is that.
Well, to know the evolution of what you speak of, I think is vital.
Yeah.
I can also add to that, I guess. So for me, it's also about adding value to existing product, right? So yes, there's a trend towards upcycling or reselling clothing, but with the new product that is being released, I think it's important via RFID or NFC chips or whatever to install value in the garments that makes you think twice about throwing it away after you wear it once, right? So if a brand is able to easily change the experience or the value locked into a garment, you are going to have a longer product life cycle, right? So they're going to keep it. If they know that, your shirt in 6 months is going to unlock concert tickets or VIP access to something, and you have to hold on to that concert shirt until the next performance in order to get VIP access. So these sort of little things that the brands can do by attaching the value on it actually extend the lifestyle of new products. and can add value to, you know, the upcycled designs that are happening out there.
Real quickly, I love that you said that because that is true sustainability, right? Changing the relationship with our clothing. We did this with Uber and Lyft, right? So that used to be a depreciating asset class sitting in your driveway, and somebody knocked on someone's door and said, hey, you could make $60,000 a year, $90,000 a year driving that thing around, right? All of a sudden now you can't live out of that car. You got to put mints in the back. You got to put some water, right? And so that changed the relationship. Once that became your living that was parked out there, then it all changed, right? So I think the same thing, exactly what you're saying with clothing. If you're walking around maybe getting paid to influence others with your creative spirit, you're going to think twice before you, even when you rip this, you're going to think, where's my next, where's my tool?
Prosumer.
I want to hit a couple more notes before we bring it in for a close. Since Brian earlier you mentioned AI, so somebody has to take a shot somewhere. AI at the moment doesn't have culture. We start ChatGPT is just reading everything we've done and regurgitating it intelligently. You speak of motivations around culture, the importance of culture in benefiting society above this infrastructural level. Why? I don't want to ask like, where is AI coming into the picture? It's not an AI conversation, but it is playing a role. Where is the human element still going to serve its greatest purpose in an AI-driven world?
AI doesn't have personhood. It doesn't have like a creative spirit. AI, in my opinion, is going to help free us up to more readily express that. I think AI is going to help us tear down barriers of fear. So fear and politics govern most of what goes on around us. And I think that if we can lean on these tools to do what they do extraordinarily well, which is coordinate large digital data sets in many cases that inform those things that I mentioned earlier, whether that be fun events or like a concert, or whether that be a public health and safety event or traffic and transportation. So we're going to utilize artificial intelligence to free us up to express ourselves with each other and realize that life is not this zero-sum game that in many cases our current digital realms have kind of emphasized, right? That if somebody gets a like or a follow, that was a like or a follow I didn't get. Why am I not getting that? And that's not how life's supposed to be. We can live in abundance if we distribute resources more appropriately. And so AI can help us automate the distribution of resource and make that a little more consistent with the efforts that are put forth by individuals.
Ask the question. So AI, right, is supposed to help. Is it the individual or the people? Like we have a gentleman, Max, who's supporting, this is his t-shirt company, supporting Maui. We just did an event with him last night. And it's to support all the families who got burned out. Right now we're trying to find water systems to help them with the foundation. So what is AI about? Is it about the person or is it about people?
I think it's really just a tool. I mean, we need to understand that technology is us. All this is us. It doesn't stand aside from us. We created it.
Is it about us or the people? Like, how do we make the difference to be about the people?
We have to make it easy to engage in the types of behaviors that lead to the outcomes that we desire. And our current digital realms don't lead to those outcomes that we desire. And in many ways, we're swinging the hammer back into our face over and over and wondering why we're bleeding.
I love that. I love your answer, but that did not answer the question. So, but still, it's cool. I like
So
it.
AI is a tool, it's not the answer.
Right, but where are we going?
So let's reground ourselves in conversation. I love being pie in the sky, but we have asses in seats, and the mind can only absorb what the ass can endure. So where do I want to land it? Emily, you mentioned, I want to hear from you too, Sylvia, because you shared with me that you're working on smart clothes as one of your next endeavors. I want to hear what that means. And for us at Satoshi's Closet, if you owned our apparel that you had minted, that you had purchased in previous years, that was your ticket to this event. The shirt is the ticket. Where is that real world connectivity going to be? Let's put the AI conversation way out in the background, that's in the distance, but say a 5-year time frame. What is a connected apparel? What does connected apparel mean? What does it do for you in this practical world that we're living in?
So we just had our fashion show on Sunday, and I think that was pretty much as close to answering the question for you here. Partnered with Kelly Max from The Modernist, who served as the inspiration and theme for his art that's actually going to the moon for the designers that we have. And so what we see is really bringing, that digital and physical connection that we keep talking about, right? So whether it's today or 5 years from now, every garment is going to have an NFC tag or some kind of trigger point, whether it's hidden or you can walk next to it, whatever. And that is going to deliver the marketing messages for the brand and the access to their events and all of these points to it. So, for me, it's just that is the future of it, and it might be old news to everyone in this room, but, the company that we partnered with for the show is one of the largest global packaging companies with 800 brands, and only 60 of the 800 brands that they're working with across 30 countries are even exploring NFCs for the first time. They don't even know what the NFC does. They just think they have to have it either for regulation purposes, sustainability messages, all that. They have no idea just the breadth of where that trigger can take you. And that will be the future, and it will be on every garment that you have.
I'm going to ask you guys this question. What do you want your clothes to do? What problem do they solve? What do they make you feel? What do they make you look like? The technology is going to enable and does enable clothes to be way more than they can, or than they have been in the past. So what do you want them to do?
I want to take me to space.
We're doing that.
So, you guys are talking about how this can help people do whatever shit to their money. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, so what if there's like a uniform for a kid, and the uniform gets them free lunch or whatever? Why the fuck wouldn't it just be, I'm gonna pay money for this kid to get free lunch? Why do they have to wear the shirt every day to get the free lunch? You know what I mean?
I don't think they have to. I think it's easier.
I think that also there's going to be all these different, there's not one solution, but there's a lot of different, so there are cases where, you wear the shirt and you get a free lunch or you get whatever, and there's other cases where that's totally inappropriate and not necessary, but I think it's about having a lot of different stuff rather than just, this is what fashion is, this is what clothing is. We've been in this really limited place of what it is and how we think about it, and it could be so much more.
Question. I have a question for Brian. And, we know that in the short term, NFTs are going to change, the way we authentify goods like provenance and ownership. But we want to know here, because there's people that are not in the Web3 space. There's like influencers, digital marketers, people that want to figure out how can I apply this to my business apart from authenticity and provenance. And Brian gave me a very good explanation of what is called proof of proof of wear, proof of earn, like where influencer, for example, can wear one of these NFC-enabled shirts, and now because people are following the way they are, they can now tap into their trend, and now they can create some type of economic system based on what the influencers. Could you explain that to me? That was very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, this is kind of a subcategory of where to earn compete, where to earn, share to earn. We also refer to it as a personal point of sale system, right? So we say that you're basically standing in the store and you're standing in front of somebody. Everything on me could be a smart product with a digital counterpart, and you could be interacting with that in AR and then buy it, and then I get paid an automated royalty because I'm the one who originated the sale. So if people like my boots tonight and you click on these and you buy them in the size that you want, well, I originate that sale. I should get the commission, or I should get incentivized. Or maybe my form of my commission is it takes it and donates it automatically to St. Jude in an automated manner, right? So, or we could create a shirt that says this t-shirt paid off our student loans, right? And you could create a behavior around that. So consensus was something that is underestimated. So if I create that t-shirt and we all buy that t-shirt, it will pay off our student loans. But if we don't buy the t-shirt, it won't. So if we can encourage that type of behavior and tip that type of consensus, things can occur that we otherwise wouldn't believe. I mean, think about the example of like Ray Kroc at McDonald's. You don't think someone came up to him and said, hey, there's burgers and milkshakes down the street. Like, why are you selling the burgers? Like, burgers are out there. Like, what makes you think you've got a special burger? And Ray Kroc was trying to explain back then, I'm going to present it a different way, right? I'm going to paint this picture a different way. Sure, there's burgers and milkshakes and fries, but I'm going to put them in a Happy Meal, and I'm going to serve 1 billion people because I make it fun. Right? And that those people probably laughed at him, but look, right? It was the presentation of it. And this is the biggest thing I would say is a lot of people are worried that people are going to like steal them. No one can steal you. It doesn't matter. There's paint, the tools are democratized. The paints and the brushes are out there for you to use. You want to paint your own authentic picture, and we all can. So I would say be authentically yourself. Don't always look to others, because what works for others isn't going to work for you. So it could be disappointing looking at everybody else for what you should be doing. It's a really empowering and safe space to just be yourself, and it's hard. You have to let that fear go. And everybody's on their own journey, and some people will find different times to let that fear go. But try to, catch yourself in those moments where you think that you need to kind of act out this zero-sum game, or that like someone's going to steal you, and realize that no one can take you, and no one's going to paint the picture the way that you are.
Right, but you
I want to bring it home. Everybody's been sitting here. We'll get the music back started and the bar back started up. Sylvia, I'm inspired by what you said. Asking the audience, what do you want the future of fashion to be? And I heard from somebody earlier this week, and again, I'm a fashion outsider. My word is whatever you want to take it for. That fashion right now is lacking an identity, lacking a direction. And we are in a new creator world where we're not just consumers, as Brian pointed out, we're also producers. And we might not have all the answers. I think with all these questions that we've asked tonight, we still have as many questions as we do answers. And we're not going to go out and have all of the answers tomorrow, but I would ask people go out and answer that question for themselves that Sylvia posed. What do you want fashion to be? What do you want this shirt to be? Is it a $4 utility? Because you can also buy that on Canal Street. It just says, I Heart NY, 3 for $10. Maybe that's all you want your shirt to be. Maybe you want it to be more That's what this new digital canvas provides for us. I want to thank our panelists for being here tonight. Brian, Emily, and Sylvia. Thank you to our host, G Gallery. I want you all to enjoy the ending of the Fashion Week. Be your authentic self.